Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Elion, and we are here with Carl. Is it Kennedy?
That's right. Canedy
Cool.
is the correct
So,
pronunciation.
Carl.
Yes.
Cool. Carl, could you introduce yourself and what you do in the Kennedy, the 450s, and the Rod?
Absolutely. So, I'm Carl Canedy, as Elliot said, and I am a drummer and songwriter for some of these bands, and part songwriter, and producer as well, part producer. So, co-produce, co-write, and for the Rods, drummer since David and I started that band in late 1979, and we're working on the new album called Rattle the Cage, which I'm about to lay down the final drum tracks. And with the 450s, I'm the drummer, and it's a really a band that with musicians I've worked with for years, produced and managed people in the band, and then with Kennedy, it was really not my band. It was a band that was brought in to do a TV show with, and from there we decided to record, and then we decided to call it Kennedy. I'm really proud of it. The Kennedy album Warrior. So then I have a band Colossus, which is about to release an album as soon as I play this last drum track, and that album will be out as well, all new material, all original. So, and then there's the Angels of Dresden, which is Fields of Summer. That's out, a song written by Brad Sinsel and Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. And I'm just out of the studio, just doing the final mix for a band called Adam and the Metal Hawks, which you should look them up. They're fantastic, and it's a great Christmas song. I'm sure at some point in the season you're going to be hearing about that song as well. So that's what I'm up to. Along with, I'm about 200 plus pages in my book, which will probably be 300 pages. But so that's what I'm up to.
Cool. So let's dive into some questions.
Sure.
As a kid, what were you listening to?
Well, if you go back to the first record I ever bought was called Purple People Eater, Sheb Woolley. And years later, when I was actually managing bands, there was a convention here, a new music seminar. And I got to hang out with Sheb Woolley for a couple of days. Like when we would meet in the lounge, we'd all hang out and have dinner. And so it was great to meet somebody. My first record I ever bought. But I was young, and I would be home, and I started playing with the dial, and it was all this, Perry Como, mellow stuff, things I didn't like, and I was like, I don't like this. And one day I discovered that I think I was 7, and I could turn the dial on the radio, and suddenly that's how I found Purple People Eater and started finding rock and roll, and I was hooked. So, but when I was young, when I started playing drums at 13, the bands I listened to then were Hendrix was just emerging, The Who, Deep Purple, Cream was a huge influence, and those were the bands I was really listening to, Led Zeppelin and all that. So that's where my kind of the DNA musically is.
Cool. So who actually got you into music? Was it a family member or a friend, or was it just finding music on your own?
Well, when I was 4.5, my mother went to a wedding reception at an American Legion Hall, and I remember a tank out front, big army tank, and then I went inside and I saw this red drum set sitting on this little stage, and I was just blown away by it. I was just like the white light shone down and Hallelujah singers, and that was it. From that point on, all I wanted to do was play drums, period. I was obsessed.
Yeah.
So
So who actually inspired you to say I want to become a drummer? Was it that you just described there when you're 4-year-old at wedding reception, or was it
that was
something
it.
completely different?
No, that was it. that was it. But it was just my parents separated. My mother had no money. So I really didn't get drums until I was 13. In the meantime, I'd get a practice pad. In school, the drum chairs were taken, so I got a clarinet. Well, we have a clarinet, play clarinet. So that was it. I can still play a little bit on the clarinet, like nothing great, but I can get sound out of an actual tone and play some notes. But it was, I had a drum pad and sticks, and I just finally at 13, I went to where my mother worked with this shady guy who had this cheap Japanese set of drums, crappiest drums. But they were my first set of drums. I loved them. And for $365, she signed an installment contract and I got my drums. And from that point on, I practiced every hour of the day I could. And then I had a guitar and I would play guitar every other hour of the day. And I was just obsessed at that point. And still am,
Cool.
believe it or not. Still am after all these
Yeah.
years. I am still obsessed with music, as you can tell by all the projects I have. And I have,
Yeah.
and to go back to that, I have a new project that we're working on right now that I can't announce yet, but it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a great project. So,
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So, were you in any bands prior to say the Roads or to the the 450s prior to were you in any other bands?
I was. So, I was in a band. I got drums at 13 and a half. I was in a band. God knows how awful that must have been because I couldn't play. I mean, I was probably playing ting, ting, pam, ting, ting, bam. I must have been the worst drummer. I mean, I was playing for 6 months, but I was in a band. We played little parties and things and house parties and outdoor things. And man, I must have sucked so badly. So I can imagine how bad the band was. They were all older than I was. So they were probably drunk and didn't care. But at that point, I started playing in little local bands. I started a band called Wadsworth Anthem, and I have demos of that band. And that band was kind of my high school band. And then from there, I went on and played with different bands. I played with a band called Big Daddy and the Duquesnes, which was a horn band that did Chicago, Sly and the Family Stone, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. That was really fun, great band. And then I was in a band called, this is the best name of all, Raw Meat was the name of the band. It was like a genius name, Raw Meat. Really catchy. Tonight, Raw Meat performing here. But it was a great band. It was a great band. Great musicians. And it included David Porter, who 805 fame had I'm not sure how it did in the UK, but they had a fairly like a top 50 hit here in the States, but very talented man, along with Frank Briggs, a brilliant drummer. So that was it. And then I played with a band called the Dean Brothers, which had Annie Burns in it. So I don't know if you've heard of the Burns sisters, but they're an international group. Sisters, great singing, vocal group. And the Dean Brothers had like a regional hit. And so I played with the Dean Brothers for a while, which lifted my credibility because prior to that, I would go into music stores here in Ithaca, New York, and they'd ignore me. And, I was a rock drummer. Then once I joined the Dean Brothers, I'd walk in and they go, "Oh, Carl, let me help you." I was like, "Screw you." But, it elevated my status. So then suddenly I was somebody, and now they would sell me drumsticks, whereas before I'd walk around the store trying to get help for 20 minutes. And then after that, David and I spoke, and we decided to start the Rods, and that's been it. So
Yeah, cool. Excuse me.
mm-hmm.
So, what have you been up to with the projects that you're involved with now?
I'm sorry, say that again. It was a bad connection.
What have you been up to with the bands that you're working with now? So, are you releasing new material, or are you
We are.
putting out? Yeah,
Yes, we
could
are.
you
I
tell
mean,
us?
the
Yeah,
Rods are in the process of signing a new record deal, and the 450s. We released the 450s album on Louder Than Loud Records, which is something to check out. The vinyl is here now, so anybody's interested in collecting vinyl, the 450s vinyl is out. And you can go to the450s.com. So it's the450s, no apostrophe.com, and order that. So the Rods have new stuff that will be coming out. Colakis, my band from the 70s, that band will have a new album out shortly. And Warrior is out by Canedy. And I'm really proud of that album. I think it's a great album. And Fields of Summer is out by Angels of Dresden, along with other songs I performed on with the Angels of Dresden. And so, yeah, we're releasing material all the time.
Cool, cool. So are you? I know you've been concentrating on the new material that you've been working on, but are you working on new material for other projects?
Well, like I said, I just produced Adam and the Metal Hawks, which I highly recommend anybody check them out. They have a great video with Jack Black. They have one with Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, but they're really, really a great band. I think we're going to hear a lot of them. They're very young and they're very talented. So I just produced that, and I'm staying busy with any number of projects. So I like to produce. I produce over 40 albums. So I still love to do it, and it really restored my faith in young musicians by working with Adam and the Metal Hawks, because they were so easy to work with and so talented.
Yeah, cool. Are there going to be any tours with the Rods or the 450s or Kennedy? Are you going to be doing any North American tours or?
Well, for the 450s, we would love to do some dates, and COVID really shot us. They really put us in a bad place. The Rods, we just played 4 shows and they were great. We have a new bass player, Freddie Villano from Quiet Riot, and Dee Snider's Widowmaker. And it's made a huge, huge difference in the band. It's so much fun, and it's just great to play them. The band's never sounded better. And so, we're looking, and we're hopefully coming to tour in Europe. We've had a number of offers. It's just the financial thing. For us to leave here, it's several $1,000s just to cover expenses. So it gets a little pricey, but we're looking. We want to come. We have a lot of promoters interested, and hopefully we will go, get to Europe and get to Japan again, and hopefully Brazil. We love South America.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I know Brazil and other parts of South America totally love the rock and metal down there. Are you thinking about going to, like, say, Chile or down to Mexico, or do a
I
full tour down in Brazil?
We've only played in Brazil, and the fans were so respectful and so appreciative. I mean, they're like true metal fans down there, and it was fantastic. So yeah, I would love to go back to Brazil. We played Sao Paulo, Brasilia, so we'd love to go back. As far as Mexico, would love to go to Mexico. That would be fantastic. But so far, no
Yeah,
offers there. But we are getting interest from Europe, and I'd love to go back to the UK. Touring with Iron Maiden through the UK, and that was like the best, and the UK fans were phenomenal. So we'd love to get
yeah,
back there.
yeah, yeah. Would you do I know you said you want to go back to Japan, but would you go to like a place like Australia or New Zealand or even down to South Africa?
If we're invited and there's enough to make it worthwhile, we're there, because I'd love to go to those countries. And I have a big joke at my house. The 2 things I want, and I never seem to get them for Christmas, Elliot. I don't know what the problem is. I want a baby elephant and I want a koala bear, but they have to be live, not just. And they never seem to show up. Like, open the presents on Christmas Day, and no koala bear, no baby elephant. What the hell's going on? Like, what kind of a Christmas is this? But
Yeah, yeah,
if I go to Australia, maybe I could get my own koala bear and put it in a little duffel bag and bring it back on the plane.
yeah, yeah.
You don't sound very
Dreams can
hopeful.
happen. Yeah, I was going to say dreams can happen.
Well, thank you for that. I
Yeah,
needed that positive thing, positive note.
yeah. So this is probably going to be my last question. Um, any advice for people who want to basically become a musician?
Well, I've been doing this pretty much since I was 13 and got my set of drums and got into a band at 13 and a half. And so I have had a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. And so I think that my advice to any artist would be true to yourself. In this day and age, when I started, it was a different world. You had to be signed to a record label. My goal was to be in a major label because of the bottleneck. Independent didn't really happen back then, when I started. Now, everybody can do their own album, record at home, put it on YouTube, put it on the internet, all the different uh, sites. You can have it every streaming site. But the one thing that I think bands have to do is not chase a genre, but be true to yourself. What is it you want to do? Create something original. Take your time. Make sure you really believe in everything you're doing, all the lyrics, every note of the music you're performing, and then do the best recording you can and stick to your guns. Don't vary from that because it's hard to rise above the noise. Because the good thing about not being bottlenecked by a label is that everybody can have their music out there. The bad thing, of course, is everybody can have their music out there. So, how do fans find it? And of course, you're competing with gaming and streaming TV. The audience from when we started, people would actually get an album and they would go to friends' houses and they put the album on and they listen to the whole album. It doesn't happen anymore. Now it's a singles market, and I'm hoping no, more and more that people do listen to albums. It seems like I see that more and more. But I don't know if it'll ever return to that. But so at the end of the day, you're stuck with your music. And if you go back to it 10, 15, 20 years later and you listen to what you did, if you were compromising, if you were chasing a genre, we want to be like this band. And so we're going to do everything to sound like that band. And you're not true to yourself, you're going to listen to your music and go, what did we do? Like, this sucks. Like, we were just a copycat band. But if you listen to your material and you go, wow, we really created something unique, something great, something true to ourselves. Now you have something to pass on and listen to and be proud of, as opposed to kind of ashamed, because time has a way of having you look at time has a way of, when you look back, it becomes clear what you were doing. So if you were kind of poser and chasing something that wasn't true to yourself, hoping, oh, maybe we'll catch that audience or whatever, it'll become clearer as time goes on as to what amount of poser you were back then and how you didn't believe in yourself. So be true to yourself is the advice in simple form. I gave you the long version there, but just be true to yourself. Do the best you can. Best lyrics, best music, best arrangement, and best recording you can do for the budget and the situation you have. And at that point, hopefully you're going to find an audience, because obviously you put your heart and soul into something, and that's what people relate to. So that's my best advice for artists starting out. And also
Yeah,
get a good lawyer.
yeah. That's I've been sort of like been saying that. Make sure you get a really good lawyer,
A
because
music business
it is.
Right. A music
Yeah,
business attorney, not the local real estate attorney or, estate planning attorney. You need someone in New York, LA, Nashville, Miami who's a real attorney. And then make sure you check them out, because just because they're in those markets doesn't mean they're not shysters. You still get some shady characters just because they have lawyer in front of the name, or Esquire after the name doesn't mean they're honest.
yeah, yeah, yeah. From what I've heard, that the music industry can be a minefield. So you need a good lawyer to actually
Yeah,
navigate.
that's right. Yeah, people will
So
definitely feed you a lot of whatever, and blow you up, and, oh, you're the greatest, you're this, you're that. But meantime, you're paying them. And of course, anytime you're paying somebody, you have to be a little suspicious of how much they love you. If they really loved you, I've had bands in the past tell me, "Oh, this lawyer loved our material, and all we have to do is pay him $1,000, and he's going to shop it for us." I'm like, if he really loved you, why does he need any money? So beware
Mm,
of people who love you when you pay them. You know, they want money and then they love you. So
yeah, yeah. Before this is definitely going to be my last question. Where can people find you on social media for the bands, like for the Rods, the 450s, Kennedy, or any other bands, or your own like Instagram, Facebook, that type of thing?
you can find Carl Canedy on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have several pages. You can find Canedy on Facebook, and it's Canedy for those who aren't familiar with that spelling. The Rods are therods.com, and the 450s are the450s.com. And it's Colakos Band Uncorked on Facebook. So you just look at Colakos, Kelakos, and you'll find it. But therods.com, the450s.com, CanadyBand.com, you know, and any social media, you'll see my name or the Rod's name there. So easy to find. And we love hearing from the fans. So you know, good and bad. I never filter anything. I'm not one of those artists who gets upset if some fan has a criticism. I see if it's something I can glean from it to make it better. I don't get upset. So don't be afraid to be honest.
Yeah, cool. Anyway, Carl, thank you so much for coming on and for doing this little interview. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I mean absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support.
Yeah, my pleasure. So yeah, go check out the Roads, the 450s, Kennedy, and all the brilliant bands that Carl's supporting. Yeah, go check them out.